I remember the moment Madeline sat me down, her hazel eyes locking onto mine, her manicured fingers tracing the rim of her wine glass like she was about to deliver a casual Tuesday confession. Please subscribe to this channel as we dive into the story. She exhaled softly, her voice carefully measured, calculated in its delivery. I need a break, Ryan. The words settled between us, heavy but unassuming. A break. She said it like it was something small, something reasonable. But the way she said it, the way she carefully composed herself, I knew there was more. A break, I repeated, my voice even, controlled. Madeline nodded, tucking a loose strand of dark blonde hair behind her ear. Not just any break, she clarified, her voice dripping with manufactured sorrow. I need a month to figure things out. A month. I studied her carefully, watching the way she avoided direct eye contact, how she pretended to be struggling with this, as if what she was about to say next wasn't something she had rehearsed in her head 100 times. She took a slow breath, then delivered the final blow. Ryan, I love you, she continued, as if saying that softened the betrayal. But I love him too. I need to see what life would be like with him before I make a final decision. She finally met my eyes, watching, waiting for the explosion. I didn't give her one. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I simply let the weight of her words settle in the air between us. She took my silence as permission to continue. I don't want to throw away everything we have, just in case I realize I made a mistake. That's why I need this month, to be sure. To be sure. The audacity of those words almost made me laugh. I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles whitening against the wood. I kept my face neutral, my expression carefully blank. I wouldn't give her the reaction she was expecting. You want me to just wait for you? My voice was void of emotion, hollow. Madeline sighed as if I were the one being difficult. I'm not asking you to wait, Ryan. I'm asking you to understand. This is the only way I can make the right decision for both of us. Both of us? That was the moment I knew. This wasn't weakness. This was calculated. She thought she had both of us wrapped around her finger. She believed she had the luxury of choice. And that's when something inside me clicked. Not in rage, not in heartbreak. In absolute clarity. Madeline was playing a game. She thought she was holding the cards. She had no idea I was about to burn the whole deck. I inhaled slowly, controlling every ounce of the storm inside me. Then I nodded. Okay. Her brows furrowed slightly. Okay? I stood up from the table, walked to the fridge, and grabbed a beer. The cap twisted off with a quiet pop. I took a long, slow sip, letting the silence stretch between us. She expected something. Anger, begging, a plea. I gave her nothing. Her lips parted slightly. Ryan? I turned, leaned against the counter, and met her gaze with an eerie calm. You need time? I mused. Fine, take it. For the first time that night, uncertainty flickered in her hazel eyes. Still, she recovered quickly. She smiled. That infuriating, self-assured smile of a woman who thought she had already won. She got up, walked over, and pressed a soft kiss to my cheek. I'll be back in a month, she whispered like a promise. Then she packed her bags and walked out the door. And the moment she was gone, I got to work. I already knew his name, Daniel Carter, a self-proclaimed entrepreneur, a man with a dream but no foundation. He was all flash and no substance, a walking illusion of success. I had known about him before, but I never thought Madeline would actually go through with it. Turns out, I underestimated just how selfish she was. That night, I did what Madeline never thought I would do. I started taking back control. The first call I made was to my lawyer. By sunrise, our shared bank account was half of what it was yesterday. She didn't know it yet, but I had already started the paperwork for the divorce. Not to file immediately, but to have it ready the moment she made her decision. And when she came crawling back, expecting me to be waiting, she would realize she had nothing. Madeline's family adored me. Her parents, her sister, they always thought she had married up. So I invited them over for dinner. A nice, heartfelt conversation about how Madeline had left to explore her options, but planned to choose between us in a month. The look on her mother's face, priceless. Her father sat silent, his jaw clenched so tightly I thought he might break a tooth. Her sister, already taking screenshots of Madeline's Instagram, where she was posting new beginnings photos with Daniel. I let them stew in it, let them process the fact that their golden child was, in reality, a selfish, ungrateful cheat. Then I sat back and watched the chaos unfold. I needed Madeline to feel secure, to believe that when she came back, she would still have me waiting. So I played my part. I sent her one text a week. Hope you're doing okay. Thinking about you. She ate it up. Even responded. Miss you too. Hope you're taking care of yourself. This is harder than I thought. Oh, sweetheart, take all the time you need. Because by the time she came back, there wouldn't be anything left for her. 4 weeks later, she came back grinning. She walked into the house like she owned it, like she had just taken a little vacation and was ready to pick up where she left off. She dropped her bags at the door, sighed dramatically, and flashed that confident smile. I've made my decision. I leaned back on the couch, swirling a glass of bourbon in my hand. Oh, she stepped forward. I choose you, Ryan. Her voice was dripping with practiced sincerity. I realized what we have is real. I had to go to appreciate it, but I know now. You're my home. She reached for me. I didn't move. Instead, I smiled. A slow, knowing smile. Then, I said the one thing that shattered her world. Madeline, I didn't choose you. Her face froze. The confidence drained from her expression. The power shifted. And just like that, I watched her fall apart. I watched as Madeline's confident smirk vanished, replaced by something raw and unfamiliar. Shock. She blinked, her hazel eyes searching my face for something, anything that would tell her she had misheard me. But I gave her nothing. I let the silence stretch between us, let the weight of my words settle in the space she thought she controlled. What? Her voice cracked, slightly, just a hairline fracture. But I heard it. I took a slow sip of my bourbon, enjoying the way she shifted, the way she suddenly felt unsteady in a house she once believed she ruled. I didn't choose you, I repeated, my voice calm, unhurried. She let out a nervous laugh, the sound high-pitched and unnatural. Ryan, come on. I know you're upset, but let's talk about this. She took a step forward, reaching for me, but I didn't move. No, Madeline. My tone was sharp, final. We don't need to talk about anything. Her hand hovered in the air before she slowly lowered it. The confidence she carried so carelessly before was crumbling. I don't understand. I sighed, tilting my head as if I were explaining something to a child. You spent a month deciding between me and another man, and while you were doing that, I set my glass down, leaning forward slightly. I spent that month deciding whether I'd let you come back. Her breath hitched. There it was, the realization. She had assumed I would be waiting, that my love for her would override my self-respect. She had underestimated me. You're just upset right now. She forced out another chuckle, but this time it was laced with something else, desperation. I get it. This was hard for both of us, but we can talk about it. We can fix this. I leaned back, crossing my arms. No, we can't. She froze. For the first time since I had met her, Madeline had no control. Her lips parted, but no words came. I let her sit in the silence, let her feel the emptiness she had created. Ryan, her voice dropped to a whisper. You don't mean that. I stood up slowly, walking past her to the small table by the couch. I picked up a thick envelope and turned back to her. She flinched as I held it out. Divorce papers, I said smoothly. Already signed. I left a space for your signature. Her hands trembled as she took the envelope, her fingers barely able to grip it. She flipped through the pages, scanning them with wild eyes. You had these drawn up weeks ago, I nodded. Just in case. The color drained from her face. You were planning this the whole time, she whispered. I shrugged. You left me here like some fool on standby while you went to test drive another man. Did you really think I'd just sit around and let you decide my future for me? She opened her mouth, then closed it, her breath uneven, her world crashing down around her. She took a shaky step back, gripping the papers like they were a lifeline. But what about everything we built? I gave a humorless chuckle. You mean what I built? She swallowed hard. I saw it now, the truth sinking in. She had gambled and lost, and now she had nothing. Her fingers tightened around the documents. What if I don't sign them? I smirked. Then my lawyer will handle it. Her jaw clenched. You're really doing this? I nodded. She wiped at her face, trying to regain control. And what about Jason? She threw our son's name out like a shield, as if it would protect her from the damage she had caused. I almost laughed. You mean your family? I asked, watching her carefully. Because Jason already knows what you did. Her entire body went rigid. What? I leaned forward slightly. Did you think I wouldn't tell him? That I wouldn't explain why his mother decided she needed to explore her options before coming home? Her face crumbled. He knows? Not just him. I continued, my voice even. Your parents, your sister, your friends, they all know. Her hands flew to her mouth, a horrified gasp escaping her lips. Oh my God. You wanted to test the waters, Madeline. I tilted my head. Hope you like drowning. She broke right there in front of me, sobbing, gasping for air, shoulders shaking under the weight of what she had just lost. I stood up, walking past her, heading for the door. You can stay here tonight, I said without looking back. But by the weekend, I want you out. She collapsed onto the couch, still clutching the divorce papers in trembling hands. And as I stepped outside into the crisp night air, I took the deepest breath I had in years. I was free. She was nothing. And I had won. Madeline had always been a woman who thrived on control. She controlled conversations, controlled emotions, and controlled me for most of our marriage. She walked into every room with the certainty that she was the most important person in it. And now she was nothing. I saw it in the way she slumped against the kitchen wall, gripping the divorce papers like they were a death sentence. The tears streaking down her face weren't for love lost. They were for power lost. I left her there, didn't comfort her, didn't offer a tissue, a word of reassurance, a single damn thing. I just let her sit in the wreckage of her own making. By the next morning, the begging began. I woke up to 3 missed calls. By the time I made my coffee, there were 5 unread messages, each one a little more desperate than the last. Ryan, please talk to me. We can work this out. Ryan, I didn't mean to hurt you. It was just a mistake. Ryan, Don't do this, please. I'll do anything. Ryan, can we at least talk before you file the papers? Pathetic. She still didn't get it. She thought this was a negotiation, like I was going to bargain my dignity just because she was finally feeling the consequences. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to work. Business as usual. By lunchtime, I got another message. Ryan, I told Daniel it's over. I ended it. I want to come home. I laughed. Oh, sweetheart, you really think that changes anything? The final blow was delivered later that evening. She walked into the living room looking different, softer, smaller, like she had lost all the confidence she used to carry so carelessly. Her hands were shaking as she placed a cup of tea on the table, like we were about to have a gentle, heartfelt conversation, like this was still her home. She sat down across from me, took a deep breath, and said the words I expected but still enjoyed hearing. I made a mistake. I stayed silent, just watching. She swallowed hard. I thought I needed to see what life with Daniel would be like. I don't know, that maybe I was missing something. Her eyes welled with real tears this time. But I wasn't. She reached across the table, her fingers trembling like she was afraid to touch me without permission. I choose you, she whispered. I love you. I was stupid and selfish, and I see that now. I let the silence drag on, let her sit in it. Then finally, I smiled and said the words that would shatter her. You don't have a choice anymore, Madeline. Her breath caught, and just like that, she lost everything. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel.